Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for the Log My Calls webinar series. We're excited about today's webinar. We've got John Rognerud with us here today, and John did a webinar with us about a year ago and did a fantastic job, so we're really excited to hear what he's got to present to us today. The title of today's webinar is How to Dominate the First Page of Google for Your Local Business. Wanted to also mention that we have a webinar series that is ongoing. Every week we find marketing experts such as John, and they present their fantastic content to us every Wednesday, most Wednesdays and Thursdays actually. Tomorrow we have a webinar with Phil Frost from Main Street ROI. Phil has also done a few other webinars with us, and he does a great job as well talking about digital marketing. But today's topic will be about search marketing and SEO, and we've got the best guy to do that. John Rognerud is a search marketing and SEO expert. He's also the owner and founder of Chaos Map, which is a search marketing firm in Los Angeles. And he writes frequently for Entrepreneur Magazine and the Huffington Post, and so he's got a lot of great background in this field and a lot to teach us today. He's got a book with the Entrepreneur Press right now, and it's called The Ultimate Guide to Optimizing Your Website, How to Build a Performance Website. It's listed on Amazon.com, but for those who are engaged and participate in the webinar today, John has told us that he's got 2 copies that he can give away. So please type in your questions, and we will field those questions at the end of the webinar. We'll get to them all at the same time. But we've got an exciting book to give out today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to John. John, thanks for being on the webinar with us, and I'm going to turn controls over to you now.
Yes, my pleasure. Let's dig in here. 1 second. Thank you. Let's see here. Can you see my my presentation here?
Yes, we can. We've got that up on the screen.
Okay, I'm going to go full screen now. Do you see that?
Perfect. That looks great.
Okay, so you should see a dude watering some plants. Looks like dollars, and it's your logo and the first page domination webinar. Do you see that?
Yep, looks good.
Do you see it, Mike?
Yes, I can. It looks great.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much. I am, of course, super excited here. This is a special time we're going to share together here for about 45, 60 minutes, and we're going to dive into the aspects of dominating Google. It's such a hypey word, that domination, but as you'll see here today, it actually works. This stuff works like crazy, and it can really mean quite a big difference for your business and for your life, depending on where you're at. And this is sort of the small business focus, but clearly larger brands can make good use of this as well. And you know, speaking about hype, you hear these blueprint ideas everywhere. You know, blueprint this, blueprint that, and you know, the expression is, you know, this is simple, but it's not easy, right? But today I'm going to break this a little bit. I break the rule here by showing you something that's simple and easy. And while there's a lot of moving parts, and yes, it's a little geeky at times, it's not really a technical seminar. You know, when it comes to SEO, a lot of folks, you know, obviously the more comfortable ones, the webmasters, will dive head first. But, you know, most business owners are frankly not into SEO, right? They may understand the basics of it, but don't have time to really map this out. So I'm going to do that today and make it simple and easy, and hopefully a little bit funnier today. And as Mike mentioned, I have a couple of books here at the end, so you want to stay on for that. And you know, without further ado, we're just going to dig in. Mike mentioned briefly a little bit about me. Here's a couple of quotes from Huffington Entrepreneur. Famous for high return, passionate approach to optimizing websites and integrated marketing solutions, process, profits, and brand loyalty, from Huffington. And I work on SEO, PPC, and social media training, consulting, as seminars, and founder of Chaos Map, as mentioned. And I just wanted to show you a picture of me. Not that that's super exciting, but at least you'll be able to connect a little bit with me here in terms of understanding who I am. This is me speaking at a conference, a search conference. Here's my wonderful wife and 3 kids, me jamming on the guitar down here. some more conference stuff, me and my favorite dude, Branson, and as I mentioned, written up online in a number of different places, and one not too recent, too far distance anyway, in terms of Huffington Post about SEO, first page there with Branson, which is a lot of fun. And just on a personal side, I do a lot of CrossFit. I lost 50 pounds in the last year. I'm just super excited about it, and I'm just kind of an overall nuts guy when it comes to all of this stuff. So there you go. And Mike mentioned Chaos Map in Los Angeles. So without that, with that though, we're going to just really dive in here. We're going to cover some really cool SEO strategies, and well, I'm going to show you a little bit of the what, right? We want to understand what the what is here, but we also want to dive into a little bit of the how. But I do have more of the how in the book, of course, and we do have something else that I want to share with you towards the end, so heads up on that so that you can learn really more in detail about what I'm sharing with you today. But really, if you think about it, search engines are really just a very powerful medium today. I'm going to dive into that in a second. But first, I just want to hold your horses a little bit here, and if you have a pen and paper, take that out, because for action takers today, as I mentioned, we have the book, but also want you to make changes for your business. There's so much information out there, but really just one strategy can make a big shift for you. So I want to make sure that we kind of get focused here in the next few minutes, and that we also, make sure you close your door, turn off the phones, all the logistics, get this down, because we're going to really be putting a good show on here for you today, but we want you to have some good takeaways. So that was just a really quick slide for you on that. And failing to prepare is preparing to fail. You've heard this before, John Wooden, right? Well, I'm going to kind of break this down into a simple three-step roadmap today, and we're going to start with the clarity. We need clarity. We need the foundations. Where are you today, right? And once we have an understanding of that, we want to build out a strategy so that you can plan for a better future and then do that via a process. And really, when I say current positions here, it's positioning of your brand, very important, right? But it's also positions in search engines. And it also is the idea that you can blend your authority through search, not just with one website, but multiple websites, right? And we'll talk about that today. And of course, the ultimate, which is tracking. All of this is for naught if you're not tracking it and verifying your process or progress as you go through the process, if you will. So this is kind of the breakdown for the roadmap today. Now, let's think about this for a moment. As I said, search, very powerful. Obviously, billions of searches covered and served each day globally by Google. But a recent article here, just a few days ago, came out on Search Engine Land about the fact that Google is now overtaking traditional media to become the most trusted news source. And it's talking about news here, but it's really in the search space, as you'll see here in a second. This is just a moment here to reflect on this, how powerful this is for your brand and can be for your business. Yes, in terms of that authority, that trusted, outlet, but also in terms of driving traffic and visibility in terms of leads to your business. In fact, in 2015, Google has moved to the forefront. And here's a quick slide from 2014 that on the left here talks about online search engines. Notice how it's a little bit behind here in 2014 in traditional media. It's now ahead, right? So the 2015 has moved ahead, and then we got the hybrid social media not too far behind, and of course owned media. I'm not going to dive into all of this detail, but just some information here to sort of break the norm for you in terms of thinking about just ranking for a particular page on your website, because you can expand this to really overtake your brand and your positioning in the entire search space, right? Very, very, very powerful. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do here is just take a quick step back. I get very excited about this. I live, eat, and breathe this stuff. I've been doing work online since 1996, actually early 96, when I wrote my first HTML code, just to get a little geeky for a second, right? But everything looks so easy, and everything looks straightforward, and you hear about business success and SEO success and traffic and leads, and everything is wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you, and I don't want to burst a bubble here, but it's not straightforward, right? It's not a straight line. The success really looks like the one on the right, and I can attest this to be true, and I'm sure you have too. It's not easy, right? But if you have a process, it can be made a lot simpler. And as I promised at the top of the call here, we're going to make this simple and easy. I just want to sort of level set a little bit, though, because some of this stuff is not going to necessarily just be a straight line. And you know, not to get too sort of airy-fairy or too heavy-handed here. You know, anything that you've done in the past, anything that you've tried to do online in the past, especially with the SEO, you know, the past doesn't equal the future, right? So if you feel that, you know, all of this stuff is dragging you down, I'm here to kind of inspire you and to change that game today. It doesn't define you and where you've been, right? All of that stuff just drags you down, so we want to kind of push forward. But with that comes some great questions. And one of the questions that we get a lot is, hey, I don't know how to do all this stuff. I'm just a small business, you know. For me to conceive and, you know, sort of finagle all these things to work for me and to build up my online presence and authority results, I frankly don't know much about SEO, so how am I going to have time to do all this, right? You know, again, kind of a simple question, but it has profound impact for business owners because they want to do what they do best, which is, you know, their work, right? Not SEO. But it is important to ask this, though, and to have some recognition about the fact that you will have to make a stop in your business to really address these issues to get a full-on authority results-proven process. And as I said at the top, there are many things you can do, right? And if you think about the 80-20 rule of business, it's going to be about 20% of the work that you're doing now that produces 80% of the results. By the way, there's a book out from Perry Marshall on 80-20 that you might want to pick up, which is absolutely amazing. Could be a game changer for you. So a little nod to my buddy Perry there. But the idea is that you're not going to take on 10, 20, 30 things. Make one or two shifts to make a leap forward and to really make a strategic shift so that these tactical actions that you then apply will actually make your business a leap forward. So just kind of reflect on this a little bit, take a step back before we dive into the goodies. So with that, just kind of take a breath and let's enjoy this process. We want to make sure that you have clarity. We want to build out these strategies, as I mentioned, and we want you to have first page authority and dominance on the first page of Google. So clear goals and direction, we know it. That is a winning formula, and that is a fact. So let's dive in. Now, as I said at the top, and Mike mentioned this too, make sure that you take notes here, questions, because it's going to be very important to not only get those answered, but actually make you take action on at least one of these strategies today. I love this. I can't even believe it. Seriously, free break check. Stop here if you can. Either they're really bad English speaking people or they're actually having fun. But I want to make sure you're good. So Mike, are we doing good so far? Everybody can hear us and no technical glitches here?
None so far. We're doing great.
Okay, great. Awesome, because we're going to get hot and heavy here right now, and I'm going to show you the exact path that you must take here to make this happen for you and for your business. And by the way, I haven't called you out today in terms of who you are, you know, male, female, the demographic aspects, right? But I'm assuming that you are a webmaster, you are an SEO person potentially, you are certainly a business owner, and you're somebody who wants to get found in Google, but also have an authority presence to build that brand, to build that product, to build that service, and to be able to drive more business to you without having to pitch and cold call and follow up people and try and nag them to death, right? This is going to be a different approach, but hopefully this will be something that really helps you. So I'm going to break this down, and I'll show you the path here. And before we do that, though, I just want to make sure that you're very clear. If you're an SEO person that's really geeky and really looking forward to diving into some hot and heavy code and, you know, infrastructure and, you know, things like that, we're not going to do that. There's no heavy-duty technical aspects here. There's not the traditional SEO and infrastructure and you know, theming and LSI and all these different things that somebody might easily get into. But we are covering what I'm calling the social domain authority SEO, and that's a term I came up with not too long ago. But it's so important to think about this because to get there, it is social now. It's about domains, and domains doesn't mean just your own website, right? It's domains in the space. It is about authority, and it certainly is about SEO. So there's no acronym for this, but we are definitely going to cover this today. And as I said, this is not a technical session. It's not a science fair, as a good friend of mine calls it. I think that's hilarious, but a lot of this SEO stuff gets a little bit geeky. So I just want to kind of let you know. So what is it really? Well, it's about optimizing virtual real estate online. And here's an example. This is a search for my brand. How egotistical, right? Well, I might as well show you what's happening in my world. So if you can see my mouse here at the top, we got the main website and the address information. This is what we call a knowledge graph here. And here's a recent news impression from TV7. And this is, in fact, today. Look at that, January 28th, 11 a.m. PST. This was a news post. So you can see very quickly, somebody searches for that, they see news, we see entrepreneur, we see Twitter, we see Amazon, we see Huffington Post, we see YouTube, we see LinkedIn. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, that's easy because that's your brand name, and we can easily rank for multiple assets online. Well, this is not about, having this be a technical session, as I said. This is about opening up your mind to what's possible. I'm going to show you some extra examples here, but this could be a specific service that you have for your business. This certainly will be your brand name, or should be your brand name, so that is shown and overtaken. You want to make sure that you completely blow out the competitors on this, and again, make sure that you use what's called virtual real estate assets. It's multiple listings, and I'll show you more of this stuff, but this is the power that I'm talking about. And I'll share some case studies too. I don't know if Mike mentioned that at the top, but you'll see how this stuff worked in some of our cases. So let's talk about then getting found. Right now that you have a little bit of a flavor for what this is, this whole idea that you need to be found. Well, different search patterns. This is what we call the search scent, right? The scent of the searcher. So an example here might be somebody searches for you, and I put you in quotes here, you the brand, you the product, you the service, as I said, and that happens in Google, right? Then listings are shown. This is all traditional, very comfortable, very familiar stuff. You see the ads, you see the blended results, you see videos, pictures, etc. And then on the right there, you actually get a click, right? There's different ways to optimize for that click. Yeah, we can talk about meta descriptions. We can talk about title tags. As I said, we're not going to go too technical on that today, but there are ways that you can tweak that. In fact, just adding a phone number in one of these listings right here. So let's say this is you and number one, and you have a strong title here. Adding a phone number, if you want somebody to call, somebody could literally just call you straight from that without clicking to your website. But really, I'm talking about a click, right? So somebody sees the results, they look through this, very impressive, very trust and authority building results because you're blasting through all of this. Well, they're going to click on it, right? They're going to validate that content. They're going to check to see if you're for real and how real you are, right? They're going to click multiple places here. They might actually watch this video down here. They might look at some pictures, right? There might be some news releases, as you saw. And so essentially, you're having an extended, high-profile, high-trusted, high-authority business card, if you will, that talks about all of this. And I'm talking about organic and SEO results here on the left side in the middle, but there is the notion of paid, right? So you can actually do that as well. But once you own this page for your brand, even if it's not searched a lot, you have a lot of opportunities for business building and credential building that will far surpass your competition. Here's another example. This is remember this one? This is a search-specific flow. This is a social promotion flow. So unlike search in this one, just to go back to that for a second, here somebody's actually seeking you out. Very focused, very targeted. It's the highest trusted click in terms of action and direction. Of course, SEO itself is not free, neither is paid, but over time, SEO has the highest ROI and opportunity for you to grow that brand. Here, you're actually paying to be socially available or available through social promotion. So somebody could be browsing out on LinkedIn over here on the left side. They're not necessarily looking for you, right? They might be on Twitter and there's some sponsored tweets happening, or Facebook, etc. simply good old advertising, right? And the ads are showing, stop whatever you're doing, pay attention to this ad, damn it, right? Too subtle, love it. Well, the advertisement is shown, and then when they click, they might go to a landing page, something like this. This is an example from Basecamp, and they enter their name and email information, and you can capture that and nurture them and build it. Well, that's fine and dandy, but a lot of these have to be now, built in terms of that trust and authority. They're going to also go down here, I put it here, and search for your brand, right? They recognize that there's some value here, and they have opted in. They're going to go back and search for your brand. Well, what are they going to do? This again, right? And they're going to start this validation process and this back and forth. And this is how we actually built our business in a lot of ways through the combination of search and sponsored ads. And I'm going to show you an example of that in a second. But here, let me just show you. This is an example from friends of mine. And this is out in Utah, in St. George, actually, where Mike is today. Here's an example of a complete annihilation of the home page for, this is Serpro, actually. And here we can see they got the local results here. They got Facebook, they got the Better Business Bureau, they got Chamber, local, Yelp, they got videos, and of course we got the knowledge graph. Now, this is impressive, to say the least, but it's also extremely authoritative, and it is a trust builder like no other. Remember that first slide from Search Engine Land about Google overtaking? Well, here you are overtaking for your space, right? Extremely powerful to get this going, no doubt. And I wrote these up on the left-hand side. This is not the extensive list, but it is kind of the core pieces of what you would expect to see very often in this, and that is that you have Facebook, you have the Chamber of Commerce for local business, you might have the more exclusive 7-pack. We don't really see that here from Google, but you understand what I'm talking about, right? Microsites, you might have built out custom sites that are very specific to a service or to a product, but I don't recommend building these microsites out just for the sake of building out more pages and interlink them and try and sort of self-adjust by spamming that way. There's some strategy that needs to go into this and some thinking, but really the idea is that you can use these and these virtual assets to dominate. And of course, when you do this, if somebody comes in and finds you at the Better Business Bureau, they're going to click over to your website, and they might take you to the home page or to a microsite or a specific landing page that you've set up. It's very common that the business owners simply driving to the home page. Well, if the home page does have a very poor call to action, it's not very engaging, it's sort of it's a brand builder, but it's sort of a dud in terms of your lead generation. So a better strategy is to actually build out a custom landing page and do it that way. And I know some of you will say, well, that sounds great, Jan, but won't I lose SEO benefit from that because I'm trying to build a landing page for the sake of lead versus driving some links to the home page, which typically would have a higher and better ranking opportunity? Well, we got to sit down and talk about that, right? But I would take a lead over a ranking position any day if it's quality, right? Anyway, finally here, I mentioned also in the outline, these are Panda and Penguin safe. Why? Well, because these are from high domain authorities, right? Like Yelp. And I'm going to show you some examples of how you determine that later. But this is not going to all of a sudden be slapped. Now, there is spamming opportunities here for people who want to run GSA Ranker and SA Nuke and SE Nuke rather, and a lot of these sort of tools to try and yank these up. But you're not going to be slapped anytime soon, right? So that's why I mentioned that you'll be safe from Panda and Penguin. And what's interesting about this is you may have a site that's listed low on the page. Some of these other ones maybe on the second page. You can look at those and actually lift them up and get them moving before you get your own site moving. Of course, if you have any of these filters, at least Penguin, you may have received an alert from Google. There's a way to fix that, obviously, by going through and analyzing your site and doing spot checks on links and profiles and things like that. I'm not going to talk about that whole process today, but there is a way to obviously go through that and resubmit for clarification. So anyway, this is a very illuminating page in terms of that authority for a local business and what you should and what you can be doing. So here's an example of, remember that social promo kind of area that I talked about? Well, this was a small investment for a high yield in case studies, something that we did actually, where the ultimate deal came down to, because we asked, what was the final buying decision? It was basically the presence of the authority that we represent in the search space that made this deal go through, right? So a Facebook promotion for a low investment, high yield. Here's another one. We put together, spent actually some time on this, a local presentation for the sort of doctor-dentist niche. And it's actually on top of Google right now. It's one of the top searches. But this was just one that we received from this second case study, almost 15K right there in the surgical niche, right? Very powerful. And again, this was pure search here. This was just really somebody who came in and said, hey, I want to see who's not only at the top searches, but who's represented well in this space in terms of that authority and brand. And again, we learned that they had done their research. Here's a third one here. This is a bigger one, and this was a brand search straight in Google. And this was a 55K. Actually, this ended up being an annual engagement. But these case studies speak for themselves, and each one of these, when we asked what was the sort of final decision, yes, we jumped on sales calls. We were in there and presenting proposals and whatnot, but we really weren't selling in the sort of traditional sense. In fact, I hate selling, right? It's the selling equals pushing. This should be an educational, natural sort of engaged process that allows somebody to, with a little bit of a nudge, make a decision, obviously, but it's so much built on this notion of authority and trust and positioning. So very cool to share these with you. So what you're going to say is, hey, great for you, and you have books and all this stuff. I don't have this. I'm barely scraping by, or I'm doing well in my business, but I have zero presence online. I'd like to kind of figure some of these things out myself. Well, you're lucky. We're here today. You're watching. You're taking notes. So hopefully I'll be able to answer some more questions towards the end. But here are some things that you can do right now. Step one, you got to do this. And I'm sure you have, but you got to really sit down and do it right, and you got to actually put this into an Excel sheet or something where you can look at this in a digital manner. So you start by searching for your name, and that is your brand, that is your product or service, and that could also be kind of a market-specific thing, a segment of your market, to just see where you show up. And you're going to see competitors, and that's fine. We'll get to that in a second. But you want to compile a list of items on page 1 and 2. And yes, you can go beyond that, but really 1 and 2 is what we like to focus on, because you may find, surprisingly enough, that, hey, a number of my entries of these virtual real estate assets, which is in the authority category, is on page 2, and you didn't know that. Well, we can move those to page 1, right? Step 2. We want to search for your competitors. You're gonna see those guys come up anyway as you start to search in your space, but you want to specifically call them out and search and see what they're doing and compile the same list for them. And then here's where you'll see crossovers, right? This is where you'll see mix and matches. You might have a Better Business Bureau for yourself on page 2. They may have a Better Business Bureau on page 1. Well, then you can take a look and see what are they doing specifically. Is it just a notion that they've been in there longer, or is it something that they're doing in terms of their positioning and optimization? There's not a lot you can do within those sort of directories for SEO, but there might be a premium package versus a basic package, etc., that allows you to get a little more visibility. And step 3, find how many social sites are used, right? So when you type in your brand, your service, your product, the competitors, what are the ones that keep popping up in the space? You might find that it's very YouTube driven. Maybe it's very picture driven if you're a photographer, right? Or maybe you see Facebook in every search up high on the page, or maybe some of those familiar social sites are on page 2. You want to make a note on where they're used and how many of those authority sites are actually placed out there, and you compile that into the worksheet as well. So again, are you taking notes? Because this is important here. This is how you start building out the strategy, and this is what we do, by the way, when we actually start helping people to get this lift happening. It's more extensive, what we do, because we look at the space even broader than that, and we look even deeper for like the top first 100, etc. But we have tools and procedures that you don't have to worry about, because you can start by doing just this. And some of this is very simple and easy. As I said, we can get more extensive later. Step 4 out of 5 here, so I'm not going to take you through forever, but you want to set up social profiles. So if you determine in the previous steps that, hey, I see my website, I see some of my other assets, I see my Facebook page, but it's on page 2, or I don't actually see any of my social sites because, lo and behold, I don't have any. I haven't set them up yet. Or maybe I have a profile page, but not a business page on Facebook, etc. You want to set them up, and you want to set them up to be Google optimized, to be search friendly. You want to make sure that you obviously are getting your brand name in there, but also that you are leveraging the links where you can. And links back to pages, as I said, that could be the home page or on or landing pages. For instance, you might not know this, but on Twitter you can actually get 2 links back to your world, right? So that could be your home page and an inner page. In fact, you could also take some of these social sites and social profiles and build them up to be intra-linked or interlinked, where a Twitter page might actually point to a Facebook page to try and lift that up. Or maybe you're trying to do a lot of training and educational seminars, and you do that on YouTube. Everything points to YouTube because you want YouTube and that channel to rise highly in search and also be available. Plus, anybody who comes through those other channels, you're not prepared, or you don't have a nicely engaging and a very well put together homepage with inner pages. Well, send them to a highly optimized YouTube profile, YouTube channel, right? And then drive traffic through that way. So you can understand and see now how the social and SEO, these models work together. It's not about the traditional old SEO of, here's my website, just drive links to the homepage or a few inner pages and I'm done. No, it got a little more opportunistic, and some might say that sounds complex, but it actually is wonderful when you see it working. And step 5 is you want to create links, and I mentioned that briefly here. And you want to create them to the social authority sites between themselves. You want to use domain authority, which I'm going to get to in a second, and those listings from the Excel sheet as a guide. And really, when I say as a guide to all of this, guys and gals, boys and girls, is what is it that I'm trying to do? Is it to be just listed for my brand all over Google? Yes, that should be a yes. But what is the ultimate goal with this? Well, I want to get more traffic, but ultimately, I want to get more leads. Okay, what's the best lead converting mechanism you have right now? For a coach or a consultant, that may be a combination of a landing page with a white paper or a special download or a cheat sheet, like we're doing right now for SEO cheat sheets, or it might be a video presentation that's put together. And then so you get your highest leads there, you get them to opt in, and they love it, and they love you for it, and you nurture and build that relationship that way. So you got to determine what that is. But there's a process to this. You start, as I said, with one simple thing. For you, that could be, I need to get my Facebook page optimized and positioned. I need to have a strong header graphic that has a call to action that also shows my brand. I need to have a pin to top post that always sits on my Facebook post no matter what, that has a call to action to take the person to a custom landing page, right? So all of this needs to be considered. And of course, as I said at the top, tracking. Remember the 1, 2, 3? You want to track all this. And typically, a lot of folks use Google Web Analytics. You can use Get Clicky or Clicky, and of course retargeting. If you're not familiar with retargeting, read up on that. Remarketing, as Google calls it. Make sure that you actually are cooking people so you can present more information and use this boomerang effect of people actually coming back to your site later, which is huge missed opportunity. We see it all the time. When we ask about it, the first question is, wow, what is that? Tell me more, right? So that's step 5. So let's just kind of go through really quick here. So remember, searching for your name, the brand, product, compile the list 1 and 2. Make sure that you search for your competitors list in 1 and 2. Make sure that you look at the sites that are presented, because in fact, even if you have say a Yellow Book or a Manta or some other site listed out there that you're considering not very valuable, it may be something that you can easily lift up to the first page that could become valuable if you edit that entry or sign up for the subscription, because a lot of these are just going to be aggregates for spiders that have just pulled your data, and make it actually work for you instead of just kind of lying dormant and have your competitors listed above you. So do that, and then make sure you set up all your social profiles and pages and optimize those. And of course here in step 5, as you remember, domain authority and the tracking and scripts and retargeting. So here's where it gets a little geeky. And it's not too hard, but it's important for you to just get the flow of this. And this is the dominance structure. No fancy name here, but it's how you actually stack this up. And on the left-hand side, I put definite ranking and possible ranking. What you want to be ranked on the first page is in this green border here. That is your site, your protected site, right? That's your money site. This is the one where, you don't go out and get article marketing and blog comments and just spam it full here. It's protected in the sense that it's valuable. And if you know much about the recent hacks out in the space, and Sony, of course, is the big global media